What's up, y'all? It's Lawrence from Just Geeking Out. And today, man, you saw the thumbnail, you saw the title, and yes, I said it. Fight me. Tyler Hoechlin is the best live action Superman we have ever had. Ever, in my Chris Jericho voice, ever had. Now, before you come at me, and I want the smoke, so come at me in the comment section. Make sure you like and subscribe. But before you come at me, hear me out here. First, I'm not saying that one actor is better than the other. I think every actor to play Superman or Clark Kent, they've done an amazing job within the story they were supposed to be telling. I believe that Tyler Hoechlin is the best version. Not just his acting talent, which he has that in droves, but also within the narrative of the story he is telling. It's just the definitive Superman. And it sucks that so many people aren't watching Superman and Lois. It sucks that it's on the CW right now, and CW kind of got rid of all of its superhero shows. You know, it kind of sucks that HBO Max, when they changed their model from focusing on original streamers, kind of went back to old school HBO in a way, that it kind of got lost in the shuffle, because Superman and Lois was like an HBO Max original that also aired on the CW. But now it's just on the CW. You can watch previous seasons on HBO Max, and it just being on the CW, as the CW has, I don't know what they're doing. They've remodeled their whole situation. They're barely doing scripted content. No superhero content. So it's kind of like this last thing of that Arrowverse. And yeah, it's just not getting the advertisement. It's not getting the traction it should, because it is so good. And he is so good in it. But when I say all the actors to me are pretty equal, they're all great, the iterations, what I mean by that is, Christopher Reeve, God tier, the GOAT, greatest of all time. But the version of Superman he was telling, that he was supposed to tell, was like that bronze, silver, and kind of golden age Superman. The Superman where Clark Kent is just a disguise and Superman is the real person. And he kilted his nobility, his heart, his charisma, and then his Clark Kent changed the game. Like, it was the first time we saw live action interpretation of, you really can't tell these guys are the same people. His Clark Kent had that amazing kind of old school comedy kind of thing to him. But that was of a certain time in the comics. And as we move into the modern era with Dean Cain, we got to see the opposite, where Clark Kent is the guy and Superman is the disguise. He had this amazing line in one of the episodes where he was telling Lois, after he told her who he was, that Clark is who I am. Superman is what I can do. So for him, he played Clark Kent like a regular dude. And he was slightly mischievous, oozed charm. And his Superman was a little bit more straight, but not too much. But it was like when people saw the suit and the cape, they would never believe that this guy would choose to walk around and be your next door neighbor. So I think the people of Metropolis would have never guessed that Superman would have a secret identity. If you're Superman, why would you choose to be a regular guy who goes to work and pays bills? So he was able to kind of like just be himself in both roles with a very minor adjustment. And then Tom Welling. I'm going down the list because I want you to know there's a reason why I'm saying Tyler Hoechlin is the best. So Tom Welling. Oh, I love Smallville, especially like the first 5 or 6 seasons. After that, it kind of became Superman without the tights and flights. Like, he fought all the villains and was even wearing a leather jacket with an S. Excuse me, it's late. But those first seasons of watching a young Clark Kent like take on this destiny that is way too heavy to carry, and seeing a teenager deal with it, I loved it. And he was great in that story. And then Brandon Routh, he pretty much picked up where Christopher Reeve left off. Although I will say his Clark Kent at this point might be my favorite, like, Clark Kent in disguise version of Clark Kent, because he was similar to Christopher Reeve, but he didn't ham it up so much. So you can kind of buy that guy exists, but he's still very different than his Superman. And similar to Christopher Reeve, Clark Kent's the disguise, Superman is the guy. And then we get like Henry Cavill, right? Who, I mean, I know it's polarizing for some people when it comes to the movies he was in, but I think we all love Henry Cavill. And he was an amazing Superman. A very different take on the character. This was a Superman. Like, when I watch the Snyderverse, especially Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, I watch it like an Elseworlds. Or if you're a Marvel fan, like a What If comic or a What If series. What if Superman's parents, Martha and John Kent, were extremely paranoid and put it into his head he had to hide at all costs? It's very different than Smallville, where his Jonathan Kent wanted to protect Clark and wanted Clark to, like, keep himself a secret, but he didn't have that paranoia. Like, I couldn't see the Smallville version of Jonathan Kent saying, maybe let the kids die in the bus. I don't see the Smallville version of Jonathan Kent saying, let me die in a tornado. So that was a very different take on Man of Steel, a Superman who is just as charismatic, just as heroic, but there's a part of him that's not as hopeful. And you see that in Batman v Superman. I mean, Lex Luthor throws Lois Lane off the building and Superman saves her, of course. And what does he say to Lex? I'll bring you in without breaking you, which is more than you deserve. I'm like, who is that? That is not Superman. Now, the Superman that I love in the comics might be feeling that, but he would never put words to that. So yeah, Snyder's version is a different take on the character. You never really get to see bumbling Clark or Clark as a disguise. He kind of plays it the same way in both suits, which is fine because, like I said, no one would believe that Superman's their next door neighbor anyway. But it was a very different take. So then before Superman and Lois, when Supergirl comes out, and I think it's season 2 where Tyler jumps in as Superman, like, he had everything going against him. You had the freaking movies going on. You got a guy who, if anything, physically embodies Superman. Jacked to the gills, Henry Cavill is. And then you're also on a show that's not about you, which is Supergirl. People hated the costume and didn't understand why the guy from Teen Wolf was cast. And literally, in a second in Supergirl, he is charming. He is warm. He's everything. And, like, the distinction between his Clark and Superman, it's such a gray line. You really believe with his performance that both of those characters live in the same guy. That he is kind of nerdy. He is kind of geeky. And he might dial it up just a little bit for other people in public. But he is serious about helping people. And he does fight the good fight. So that's also part of him too. So it looks like he just accentuates different parts of his personality. Whereas the other ones, it was either Superman's the disguise or Clark Kent's the disguise. With Tyler, it's like, no, they're both different aspects of who he is. So when he goes from one to the other, there is a shift, but it's more than subtle because he is doing something different. But it's more like easy. You believe that both of these guys live in him. Whereas Christopher Reeve's Superman, when you see him in Superman 2 or those moments where he's alone, that version of Clark Kent at the Daily Planet is not who this guy is at all. That's a full-on disguise. Whereas Tyler is like, no, you're kind of geeky. He had this wonderful scene in Supergirl where he was coming, I think it's his first episode, where he came out the elevator And like he was walking with Kara, Supergirl, and he like stumbles. And she was like, good job, cuz, talking about his disguise. And he was like, that was actually real. Because with him, it could be. It could be. And what is so amazing about him is that when you go further into the team up episodes, where you have him on the Kent farm training Green Arrow, who now has the Flash's powers, long story, you see he's this wonderful leader, but he does it with such warmth and class. Just like, hey, want to go again? No, I don't want to do it again. Oliver Queen. He's like, well, on this farm when I was a kid, my dad would da-da-da-da, and he would just go into this warm, heartfelt story. And he gets Oliver to keep trying, almost like he loved him to do it. Like it was just pure love, the way that interpretation of that character leads, which to me is Superman. Superman is hopeful. He's love. He's warm. He's not perfect, but his natural, he's just a good person, Like when you hear Wolverine or even Batman sometimes say, I'm deep down, I'm not a good person. Well, Superman, deep down, Clark actually is a really good person. He really does want to help and has been blessed with the tools to do so. So as we get to Superman and Lois, what's amazing is the tone it's not in the same universe as Supergirl at all. And the tone is much more grounded. Like it was made to be an HBO Max original. So it doesn't have the kind of campy fare that the CW shows have, which I love, but it doesn't have that. It's way more grounded. It's about family. It's about Lois and Clark raising their two sons. And of course, it's Superman. So things hit the fan. So you get to see him take his character from a universe that's slightly more campy into one that's way more grounded. And he's still playing it the same exact way, and it works. And if anything, we're getting more humanity from his Clark. More, you see, he's so human, the way he loves his boys and loves Lois, but he's still so strong as Superman. But when he's walking around Smallville, you see kind of the nerdy guy, and you buy it that it is all him. He's not putting it on. He's not trying to be Superman. And he's not trying to be Clark. It's all just him. I'm spoiler territory now with Superman and Lois. The last episode or episode before last, depending when you watch this, pretty much he reveals to the world that he is Superman. And it is the most heartbreaking, heartfelt love letter to everything that's Superman. That episode is the best live action. I don't even say live action. I include animated in this. It is the best depiction of Superman in any media content. I'm not talking the comics. Comics has amazing stories. Superman for all seasons. I'm not touching the comics. But as far as television and film, the best. Man is so good, and he is so good in it. He is so earnest. He is so, you just love him. And it's like he takes all the parts of all the Supermen that came before him, the strength of Henry Cavill, the charm of Christopher Reeve, the just regular guy from next door like Dean Cain, the family aspects of Smallville. How do you be this and still deal with family and friends and living a life? Like, it takes all that, and it's such a shame that not enough people know about it, and that it's ending at season 4, which makes sense. James Gunn got a new Superman going, and I know people say we can have 2, but it does kind of start to cannibalize itself, I think. what's really amazing about this fourth season is they cut the budget in half. They cut the amount of episodes down. So many series regulars were turned recurring characters. Yet when you watch this season, fully expecting it to be a little lesser than, less time, less money, it isn't at all. And his fight against Doomsday on a TV budget wipes the floor with Man of Steel. And you have Batman and Wonder Woman helping him in that bad boy. It is so good, and he is so good. There's this one episode in the first season where you see like his first, I guess, week, month, year in Metropolis. And he's actually in like that Fleischer Superman costume. And he saves a kid from this car accident. A car almost lands on him, and Superman catches the car, and the kid looks at him and says, "Wow," because he doesn't know who he is. Like he's just like his sort of debut, and the kid is like, "Nice costume," and he just says, "Thanks, my mom made it for me," and then takes off. Like that's the Superman we're dealing with here. Very similar to Christopher Reeve telling Margot Kidder, Lois Lane, you do know, statistically speaking, that flying is still the safe. It's that charm. It's that wink. So good, man. So good. And then in that episode I was talking about where he tells the world his secret. He does it because, well, I won't tell you why. Watch the episode. But they do a flashback at the Daily Planet with him and Jimmy Olsen. And Jimmy really wants to be friends with Clark. And because of Clark's secret, he knows he has to keep him at a distance. And you see, for the first time, maybe since Smallville hit the weight of the secret. And this kind of carried it and grounded it even more. The choice that he's made for his life and the weight of this secret not being able to have real human connections with people. Oh, it's heartbreaking to watch. And it's different than Smallville, because in Smallville, you're seeing him go through it. Whereas Superman and Lois in that flashback, he's already made peace with the fact that he's not really going to be close to anyone. And it kind of sucks. But then when he gives up his secret at the end, you get the notion of, and he decides to kind of go out into the town, because they're living in Smallville without the glasses. And for the first time, for me, in any Superman content, I got the feeling of, that's like a security blanket too. Wearing those glasses, you get to walk around and not feel like you can let anyone down. No one's reaching for you. No one's tugging at your cape. No one's looking at you to save them. You get to just go to the grocery store and kind of hide behind these glasses and have a regular life. And he gave all that up. So he can't just walk outside. He gave that up. For reasons, watch the episode and we'll see how that plays out. But man, that hit me. Man, it hit me. How safe he must feel behind those glasses, because he gets to finally breathe. Wow. So yeah, man, his interpretation of Superman is the best. And it's like not even a contest. It is the best. And now you can like other ones better. You can like Cavill's take, the Snyder's take. You can like the old school nature of Superman and Christopher Reeve. That's fine. You can like whatever you want. But when it comes to page to screen, Tyler Hoechlin's Superman is the closest thing that we have from the modern comic era. Period. He has that modern flair with a little old school sprinkled on top and completely original stories. So yeah, I'm talking 20 minutes. If you haven't watched Superman and Lois, please watch it. It's such a treat. It is such a treat. You're getting the best version of Superman that has ever been on screen. And I won't say will ever, because I have high hopes for James Gunn's Superman. David Corn sweat looks great. I love the bright colors of that costume. We've been Superman and Lois and Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, you know, they've muted and darkened the suit. So it's refreshing to see a Superman costume with bright colors. And I know James Gunn's going to kill it. You know, it's going to be his own thing. It's going to be different. But at this point in time, Superman and Lois, Tyler Hoechlin as Superman, is the absolute best version of the character. Check it out. Let me know how you feel about it in the comments section. And yeah, I'll be back. Same super time, same super channel. Peace.